Alright, trying this again. So this is a deck that I made a while back, had a video of its operation up earlier, and that was in the early stages of development. A long time has passed since then, kind of got distracted, said I was going to do a deck profile, didn't do a deck profile, switched to playing Ghost Tricks for some reason, and now I'm back and I'm going to sort of show those deck runs. I'm not really going to explain most of what's in the deck just because it's really complicated. It all just sort of works together and you have to just sort of accept it works after a certain point. So I'm just going to do a ranked match and sort of see what happens. I did one earlier against Teller Knights and realized that my recording wasn't actually recording, so that's one of the bin. Hopefully this will go just as well. And it looks like we found a match. Opponent is below 1200, so not a very good record from them, but we're pretty low ladders, that's to be expected. This hand looks decent. We have a very quick options to make a Necros of Trishula pretty early. We have Teller Knights over here. This might actually be the guy I just played against. I didn't really remember his name. Yeah, if it is the same guy, he's playing Teller Knight Artifact, so we'll have to look out for that. But we have a lot of options for our initial starting plays here, especially with Gilosaurus, although, of course, Gilosaurus is really bad against Teller Knights, so we'll just see how this runs. Start with Scrap Recycling. This will give us Jet Synchron options immediately. Let's get this out of here. I'm sure this is just as annoying to everyone else as it is to me, so I was putting that forever. Don't try that at home, kids. Updates are important. Let's see if this draws. He's probably reading this. No one knows what this card does. Let's get this Jet Synchron in there. Jet Synchron will pitch Tri-Eye Dice. It's nice as a battle preventer here. We're about to use it as a tuner. So the play here is going to go make Herald, and then attempt a Soul Charge. If he has Alpha, it's going to go really badly for us, but we do have to try. Sort of see what happens, and that's Time Space Trap. Well, I will absolutely negate that, and that is great value. If that gets Trap out of the way, we can bring Herald back, and we get a Search. This is going to feel really good right now. The Search in particular is going to give us the option to immediately Necros of Trish, which is great. It'll clear the background out of the way, it'll get Deneb out of the graveyard so we can kill a source without fear, and this is just going to go very badly for him very quickly. Now I could try to push through Soul Charge first, but if that happens to be Telenova Alpha, he'll negate the Soul Charge and then I won't have an on-field target for Trish. So that sounds like a bad course of events. I'll go for a Mirror first and try to bait something out. See how this goes. So of course banishing the two Necros monsters from the graveyard. And Trishula resolves, and that is game right there. That is excellent. So that's going to be game 1 Tellers. And moving on to game 2, and that's fucking that. Okay, cool, nice, I like it. Alright, let's try that again. I think that was the same opponent we ran into before, and they were just fed up with, getting 3-0'd by this deck that doesn't actually exist. We're going to choose to go second here. We're more of a reactive deck if we have all of our choice in the matter. This is a pretty interesting hand. You can do a variety of things. The Veiler's Ends Protection looks to be some Lightsworn build. Very Lightsworn build. And it is Infernoids, in fact. That's not ideal. Infernoids are not a great matchup since they have infinite graveyard hate that we have to deal with. Although this is definitely more Lightsworn focused than I'm used to seeing. Wolf is an interesting addition. Looks like first turn Omega, which is very bad for us. In fact, that might actually make the game completely unwinnable. Oh jeez, this is a lot of nonsense, and definitely Veiling Lumina here. He's going to pitch a Raiden to get it back, and we're going to Veiler that. So if we had allowed this to go through, he would get an additional mill 3 cards as well as an Omega, cycling back any Infernoids that he chooses to banish. Definitely cannot allow that to happen. As is, he only has 1 Infernoid in the graveyard, so if he wants to make any plays here, they're going to have to be very much at the expense of his hand. Also, we'll need to keep track of the 1 Voids here, and the graveyard could mess us up in the long term. Okay, we ran into a Tri-Eye Dice. We can definitely go into a lot of things very quickly. Let's see what we have access to. So we're going to start off by going for Norden into Excel Synchron. Excel Synchron will immediately get us access to a discard outlet, more importantly, level modulation. In this case, we're going to bring Excel Synchron down to a level 4 Synchro tuner, which will let us synchro with the Dandelion off of Lonefire. So we'll reduce the level here. As I said, Lonefire is going to cycle into Dandelion. Since we're getting rid of the Dandelion, it doesn't really benefit us in any way to leave multiple Lonefires in the deck, so we'll draw one of them out. Leave one of them back in there if we need to choose between Spore or Global, but gives us that additional option there, so that's fine, we'll keep that there. Dandelion comes out. Ideally, we want Lumina dead since we don't want him to draw it again, but we would love Wolf to be back in the deck since drawing Wolf is always a terrible thing. So we're going to be popping Lumina and shuffling Wolf. And this will be relatively familiar if you've played Yang Zings, otherwise it'll be kind of weird. So Yazi can summon any worm from the deck, which will be this really cool worm here that no one's ever heard of. We're going to pitch Triad Dice to summon Jiao2 from the deck, which will allow us to make Trish if we'd like. Right now we have actually we have better options. I don't think we have better options. Let's just go immediately for Trish. I feel like that'll make it very hard for him to play the game without a top deck reasoning or something. Let's see what we can hit here. Definitely hitting Wolf, as well as the really good Deviati and whatever's in his hand, which appears to be Decatron. Something that wouldn't really have helped him since, of course, we had the Valor, but it's definitely good for him to not have the next turn. Really sets up his plays more than I'm comfortable with. Okay, so with that resolved, he doesn't really have much gas. I think we saw Monster Gate go to the graveyard as well as a lot of the mill cards. He really had very bad mills, which I'm perfectly fine with. So all he can really draw here is a reasoning. Otherwise, his plays are very slim. Seeing some hesitation from our opponent. And instant fusion, okay, so that's definitely going to be going for an Omega, which is going to be very not ideal. So Omega will be able to get over Trish. I think we're going to object to that pretty strongly with Triad Dice, since that puts a lot of damage threatening his field. Actually, no, it looks like he's going for an XYZ play, perhaps? This is interesting. I don't really see why you wouldn't go for Omega at this stage. So I'm very surprised to see this. It looks like he's going for a Minerva. Okay, that makes more sense. So he's really trying to push for significant plays. He knows that most of his deck remaining is Infernoids. And we'll see what this hits. So we've got a Petrolia and an unknown Q, which I never know how to pronounce. Any two Infernoids in hand gives him an Unku, which will be very profitable on his end. Other than that, I don't really see that he has many options. And banishing 2 for it looks like a Cytismas, whatever, all these names are impossible anyway. Let's see, Cytismas is going to attack with a Fluff token. If that attack doesn't go through, Trish will probably survive, so I'm going to sort of allow that to happen. This would banish Trish if the attack connected, but we're going to prevent that. Now his only really way to get rid of this is to attempt to crash Minerva and Nil, and I don't really see that happening given that most of his light ones are gone. So Minerva will of course kill the Fluff token, since there's no reason not to. And this will be the extent of his play here. Alright, so now we've drawn Lonefire, and this is why we sort of kept the other options live. We now have the option of going for Spore or Glow Up Bulb. I believe neither is actually appropriate here. What we really want is to make a Herald. So if I attack this, he will of course prevent its destruction with the remaining Voids here. So instead what I'm going to push to do is try to negate his Minerva activation and Trish him immediately. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to be pitching Thousand Blades to summon Jet Synchron. Summon Lonefire, not tagging out, there's nothing profitable for us to get in the deck. We'll go for a Herald here. And see what we can do from here. So actually, do we even activate this? I don't think we activate this at all. The sending cards to graveyard effect will of course be banishing them, given the Herald. So if he wants to do that, that's perfectly fine with me. And it looks like he did. A lot of people don't know that effect of Herald. They're very used to Herald just sort of being tribute fodder for Necros, but it does have a variety of very powerful on-field effects. In this case, it's going to completely prevent him from getting these cards in the graveyard. Especially with Burial for Different Dimension gone, he's placed in kind of a compromising position. At this stage, he can, of course, attack Herald and banish Trishula, which is going to be his play, but this will give me access to my own Necros of Trishula, putting a lot of pressure on him very quickly. We'll get that search off, grab a Brionac. And here comes the banish effect. And there goes Trish. That would put us in a moderately scary position. Oh wow, Soul Charge is just always the clincher, isn't it? We have so many options at this point. Going for the Trish play here is going to force him to try to remove Satismas from the field to negate it, or rather to prevent it from resolving, since this version of Trishula does need one target in each position. But we can follow that up with even a real Trishula or a variety of other very nasty things. So this should be game, regardless of how this plays out. If he's any good at all, he will tribute this off and prevent Trish from resolving. He may actually try to banish one of our material from here, prevent us from summoning Trish in the first place. Either way, we really just want this to get up, remove itself from the field, so we have our Soul Charge options very clear in front of us. We'll see how this goes. Oh, okay, so the summon resolves, which is very good. It allows us to put a lot of damage on the field, and he will absolutely change this unless he just doesn't know what he's doing at all, and he does not know what he's doing at all. So we'll allow ourselves to resolve Trishula and basically end the game right here. He has just no cards to work with at this point. This is obviously not a very good player, since he could have prevented that from happening whatsoever, but we're going to accept that since bad players are a good portion of the metagame, and just be calm in our knowledge that Soul Charge would have put this player over the top regardless of what he did. I shouldn't really say bad player, inexperienced player more like. Necros of Trishula is not a card that really sees much play anymore. It's entirely possible that he just forgot that it needs to banish one of each target, although even so in that case, he could have given me the choice between banishing Voidseer or Satismas rather than banishing both of them at once. I don't really see his logic there. Either way, we get the win and move on to game 2. For this matchup, none of our sideboard cards are really great here, except for Vanity's Emptiness. This card absolutely destroys this deck. They really can't play with it. We can immediately remove Twin Twister since there really isn't much that he can bring in that will hurt us. Solemn Warning is nice. We might see that coming in. Effect Filler is very good. All of the access to Naturia Beast is very good, so we don't want to cut any of those cards, even though we would in a lot of circumstances. I don't really see us bringing in anything else. We're just going to go straight swap for Vanities and Twin Twister and see how that ends up. Alright, this is not a particularly strong hand, but we can do a lot of things with it. One thing we can do is... actually no, there's very little we can do with this at all. Pretty much our one option here is going to be for our first turn Dante, and just try to mill some good stuff. This is one downside of this deck, you can just draw a lot of cards that are only good in the graveyard or only go well with other cards, and that's just inherent to any synchro-based combo deck. We're going to try to get some good hits here, see what happens. And we hit some not ideal things. None of these cards are great in the graveyard, all would have been great to draw, so... Not great, but that happens. Let's see what we get out of our opponent this game. And Fornax is a deck that can turbo out half of its deck very quickly and essentially kill you before you have a chance to respond, and the reasoning is very much an exemplification of that. I think 1 is about the worst thing he could hit, so we're just going to call 1 here. And, oh, he hit a Raiden immediately. That's, could be worse, could be better. I'm really glad that he hit a card without hitting any Infernoids, but Raiden is one of the worst ones that he could run into. Again, not milling any Infernoids. I have to wonder if his deck actually has a sufficient ratio for him to be doing what he wants to be doing. But we'll see what happens here. Again, an Omega play would be very nice out of our opponent, although we do have the ability to protect Dante from one attack. Like, he's not hitting much mill, so we can't really afford to be banishing Infernoids right now. He may just let it go to end phase and mill 5, or he might go for the Omega. It's very much a matter of how good he judges his hand to be. And it looks like we are going to see Omega come out. Oh, Crimson Blader, that is a very interesting tech. That's a good play against us, although we do have options for Castel in the future, so that doesn't really affect us too much. However, we do really want to see Dante survive, since our hand really has nothing at the moment. So we're going to let Dante survive, keep the Crimson Blader lock from coming down, and see if we can make some push next turn. This kind of puts him in a bad position because he doesn't have many options for the future. Looks like he's going to go for Harmonic and just destroy Dante outright, which is, of course, very bad for us since we don't really have plays. But again, it's putting him in a position where if I manage to come back, he won't really have a chance to respond, and it looks like that won't be in the cards for us as our hand just continuously gets worse. So we're just going to pass right here. Sending any card is extremely counterproductive, as Crimson Blader will just run it directly over and prevent us from, playing the game. So it's on our side, might as well just pass and see what happens. Of course, he's now above the level limit, so he can't drop any more Infernoids. We don't have to worry too much about getting straight up OTK'd here unless he has a Lumina in hand. But that doesn't really look like the case. And he just passes back. And we draw a Lone Fire Blossom. That is not ideal in the least. So we can float off into a variety of things. I think the play is just going to be to set Jet Synchron, accept the Crimson Blader lock, and try to get out of it next turn with a Lone Fire play, maybe get into a Castel. This is really the only thing that will allow us to be able to make some sort of push next turn, and that's really what we need in order to progress this game state. Anything from our opponent is likely to kill us, so this is almost certainly a futile effort, but you have to try. Yeah, it looks like Harmonix is just going to pop it. So unless he has a normal summon, I don't really understand that play, and I don't understand that play at all, since now I am perfectly free to do essentially whatever I want next turn. That's a very interesting choice on the part of our opponent. And he says, "Oh, my bad," in the chat. I guess he just, forgot that Crimson Blader does stuff. We're going to absolutely punish him for that play. Drawing Terror Top is very perfect, gets us right back in the game. But we don't have any search targets, right? I remember now. We've already used a lot of our search targets, and we're going to have to be a little bit more creative with what we do here. Lone Fire is going to go off into, I believe... Ooh, this is actually hard. Harmonic can banish anything we really go for here. So we're going to have to be careful. We can go into Spore. Attempt to go for a very large play. I'll probably attempt to banish Spore, which we can negate, and then summon Trishul. I think that's the line of play here. So we're going to summon Herald, assuming that he'll activate Harmonic. If he doesn't activate Harmonic, of course, we can actually go into Crystal Wing here, which will make it very difficult for him to play the game. If he doesn't activate Harmonic, it'll be a big clue that he doesn't actually know what the second effect of Infernoids is, and it doesn't appear that he does. So if you don't know, Infernoids can just trigger themselves to banish cards from graveyards, but he just hasn't been doing that throughout either of these two matches. And this is going to very much kill him, as we can go directly for Necros of Trishula here with Crystal Wing backup. And I don't really see where he wins from there. So again, not the most well-versed player with the Infernoid deck. I don't imagine he'll banish a card to try to stop us from resolving Trishula, given that he hasn't been doing that all game. If he does, it'll be, I guess, very good for him. But if he doesn't, this will essentially be GG. And that resolves. So at this stage, Harmonic is going to get banished, Crystal Wing will attack directly over Crimson Blader, and I don't really see where things can go wrong from there. This is kind of a not great match. I really don't like to run into players who don't know the decks very well, but I guess that's how you get better, so I can't really fault them for it. but this will demonstrate how the deck works, if not how the deck faces the actually competent opposition. Of course, Crystal Egg does that thing where it becomes really large, and he takes 3,000, and then another 2,700 immediately. I believe we still could have gotten around that if he had actually activated Crimson Blader. We do have the Castell option, which should get around the lock here, but given that he made that misplay and then subsequent misplays, this should go very well for us. He's going to pitch something, get the Tuner. Yeah, I drew into Wolf, that's not great for him. Tuner will attempt to send a monster, will negate it of course. Not going to allow that to resolve at all. At this point he has 1 Infernoid in the graveyard. If he has 2 in hand he could potentially make a play here, otherwise this is pretty much game. And game it is. So there's the round 2 of the match. Okay, so I'm still pretty low ladder, as you could probably tell from our opponents. I'll probably try to get a little bit higher, face off against some slightly more competent people, but that'll at least let you see how the deck plays, how I make decisions, and sort of moving forward, progressing the game state. It's very necessary to use all of your options to the fullest, otherwise you'll lose card advantage and get killed very, very quickly. You saw a variety of powerful things there. Crystal Wing came out, Trishula came out, other Trishula came out. Bashia, I already forget if we summoned it, probably. It's really good. Basically, you just summon big things and hope they die because of it. I may post another one of these videos. I'm definitely going to post one for Ghost Trick, since that deck has also developed a lot since the last time I posted anything about it. But until then, yeah, this is the deck as it is now. Feel free to try it out, make some changes, whatever you want, and have a good night.